Giga Texas is 40% complete, and I found a small error in my equation. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. I'm always looking for ways to improve my tracker, and I update it every single day, sometimes several times during the day, as the flood of new footage is published by the amazing Quad Squad. Jeff, Randy, Jack, and Joe all do fantastic work, and if you haven't checked them out, you should. And honestly, if you tell me you haven't checked them out, I won't believe you. During an intra-day update recently, I noticed that when switching a segment from simple frames to a roofed over section, the date of completion became later rather than sooner. That shouldn't happen. As the roof goes on, the finish date should be sooner, not later. As I dug to find the error, which I'm reproducing now to show you, I realized that when counting roof segments, it subtracted them from the framed out figure. While I corrected it so that frame segments included the roofed segments, the numbers jumped a little because roofs don't get full weighting in this chart until they're completely finished with all the final materials. Hang out until the end because the expected completion date just got a little nuts. And maybe dig through the comments because I'm sure to be getting an earful from the usual cadre of skeptical hammer swingers. When I first created the tracker, I considered the roof to come in two separate parts, rough and finished, since they are indeed very different from one another. I figured I'd refine this as time went on, and I will, but it wasn't important since there are still no done areas of the roof. So for every 2% completed on the roof, it subtracted 2% from the frames, plus another 1% for only being a halfway finished roof. Well, I've corrected this error, and the completion date has sped up a bit. There are reasons why I'm not going to change my methodology despite this unexpected jump. Interior underway. Yes, there are elements that count toward interior completion that have already commenced, but this tracker doesn't count them yet. They won't be reflected until the walls are in place. Even though we've already seen substantial floor work and the running of utilities, there's even HVAC components already delivered, but I'm not counting any of that just yet. Giga castings on site. Idra has delivered the first batch of their equipment, and it's already being put in place in the mega casting area at the northwest corner. This is not a step one takes a year prior to production, but a step one takes mere months before production begins, even if it's only test production. Completion does not equal production. Even a partially complete building can produce vehicles. This site is intended to produce more than a single model, with models Y and the CyberTruck already confirmed, and while work may continue in some areas, production may have already commenced in others. Even though we can see areas where stamping will take place, the CyberTruck uses very few stamped components and doesn't require a paint shop. Under pressure, Tesla's production has not only been intense, but literally intense. Moving target. Whether the entire Emerald footprint is complete is ultimately irrelevant to the overall completion of the site. Giga Nevada was originally intended to be vastly larger, but managed to meet the output requirements with significantly less space. Giga Shanghai's second phase was supposed to fill out their footprint, but more buildings were added to the east of it. Some of the space was allocated to loading and storage, and they even had to expand onto new land further east. Steel on track. Steel Dynamics, the company in contract to provide the CyberTruck's 30X stainless steel, is on pace to complete their factory in Stinton, Texas, located halfway between Giga Texas in Austin and SpaceX's Starship facility in Boca Chica around the middle of this year. So, supply of stainless steel should not be a bottleneck. It's the work, dummy. The biggest jump in the estimated completion date isn't because of my error, but because of the rampant pace of work being completed on the site. So like we do every week, let's take a look at the site map week by week. But first, thank you to my Patreons like Dinesh Sayanam, Jasper Shastok, Ralph, and Eviat Toval, who just joined the party, and to Johan Nell and Bruce Campbell, who both upgraded to become the first Coolio-level supporters. They enjoy behind-the-scenes access, bonus material like part 2 of the Cybertruck Myths video currently up, and help keep the channel running. I spend about an hour for every finished minute of video you see on screen, and it's extremely time consuming to produce high quality content, and I can't do it without your support. So thank you guys so much. Here it is as it appears this week. And now let's roll it back to December 14th and watch what 6 weeks of progress does. As a reminder, orange is foundation, gray is simple frames, and dark gray indicates the roof. I've also added a box around the areas built from prefab concrete rather than the steel most common on the site. So here you go. Giga Texas is 40% complete, and it will be finished, for lack of a better word, in a total of 472 days. It appears as though Giga Texas will be complete on November 5th of this year. Now, I don't believe the entire site will be done by then, since a quarter of the site doesn't even have foundations in yet, but I have high confidence we will see some form of production this year. Critics may suggest I'm just telling you what you want to hear, but I'd hasten to point out just how many of you watching this do not want to hear this. I'm not some fly-by-night in-dollar store armor. No, I'm here every week, and when I'm wrong, I'm the first to admit it. The benefit to weekly updates is that as timelines shift, you get to see it happen very quickly. Here's the floor tracker based on what we know today. As of now, the building is 43% single-story, with 42% having a second floor, and 16% having a third floor or higher. If you pause the video and look at it closely, you'll see many blocks indicate A, B, or C in them, and that indicates the floor count. I'll get this better dialed in over the coming weeks. And if you've made it this far in the video, a quick second for the upward thumb would help others find this video, and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future updates. I have finally received some serious suggestions as to how the methodology could be improved, like by using the same software general contractors use to stay on track, but the impossibility there is that we can't know the schedule or progress of any of those companies without an inside look, and the project is very much a walled garden. But just like with delivery estimates, more data doesn't necessarily lead to greater insight. Wall Street pays analysts chubby six-figure salaries to dig as deep as they can to make their guesses, and they still miss the mark by wider margins than me and almost all of the Tesla YouTubers. You can zoom in all you want, but it's a fractal. The pattern repeats no matter how closely you look. And as always, to the angry hammer swingers, confident I can't know what I'm talking about because I've never run ductwork in an industrial building or I can't recite building codes from memory, I only ask that you keep your criticisms fact-based and civil. If I wanted to hear the bleating of a miserable ass, I'd go to the petting zoo and visit the donkeys. With your mom. I am prepared to own my misestimates on these forever moving targets, but the bulk of the complaints I see are the equivalent of a fry cook at a diner screaming about how a dietitian can't know more about food than them unless they've personally pulled a double over the 4th of July weekend. I don't know how many of my predictions need to come true before the assorted nervous Nellies, whining Williams, and doubting Tom-I will admit my years of studying Tesla's various products and projects make my educated assumptions more than armchair guesstimates. But I hope they'll stick around long enough to come around. I'll be putting out my Q4 earnings estimates in the next couple of days, and probably do my first live stream covering the release on Wednesday at around 3:30 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. And if you're just confident that I'm always wrong, you definitely gotta be on the stream so you can call me out in real time. So let's hear it. When do you think the first test vehicles will roll out the door? When will customer deliveries begin? And which model will be the first produced at Giga Texas? Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you clever robots in this increasingly realistic simulation.